Until now, we have always used the EL property within our Vue instances to specify which HTML element our Vue instance should control, or more formally, which element the Vue instance should be mounted to. This means that we have to know which element the Vue instance should be mounted to when we declare the Vue instance, but we may not always know this. Therefore, it's possible to mount a template dynamically by using a method on the Vue instance. Let's see that in action. Let's first remove the EL property, because we're no longer going to need that as we are going to mount the template somehow else. If we run the code, we'll see that the curly brackets from the string interpolation are displayed because Vue is no longer controlling the app element. The Vue instance is now in an unmounted state because it has no DOM element associated with it. We'll get back to this later in this section when we talk about the lifecycle of Vue instances. We can now call the $mount method on the Vue instance and pass in the same CSS selector as with the EL property. So let's write VM, which is our Vue instance variable, $mount, which is a method on this instance, and pass in our selector, #app. This essentially does the same thing as with the EL property. It's just a way of manually initiating the mounting of an unmounted Vue instance. When we use the EL property, this happens for us behind the scenes. Now we should see the message being output correctly. But instead of passing in a CSS selector as the argument to the mount method, we can actually pass in a native DOM element instead. Let's comment out our current template and see what it looks like. So I'll do the same thing and invoke the mount method. And then here I'll actually retrieve the native DOM element by using the getElementById method here and pass in app matching our ID. So this is pure JavaScript and has nothing to do with Vue.js. And let's run the code, and now we should see the same result. So as you can see, you can pass different arguments to the mount method. So mounting the template with the $mount method is useful if you don't know which elements the Vue instance should be mounted to at the time of instantiating the instance. If you do know this, then you should stick with the EL property, as that's the most common approach. So if you can determine which element to mount to when creating the Vue instance, then you should just mount it immediately. Remember that you can pass a string variable to the EL property if you need to apply some logic to determine the CSS selector. If you need to create a Vue instance and then mount it later for whatever reason, then use the $mount method. This method gives you additional flexibility, such as defining an inline template with the Vue instance, which we'll take a look at now.